Imagine this. You wake up in the morning, your phone buzzing with notifications before you even get out of bed. Emails from your boss about deadlines, texts from family, endless pings from group chats, and of course, the flood of social media updates. You scroll through Instagram and see friends on perfect vacations, colleagues announcing promotions, influencers showing off their flawless lives. Before you've even had your coffee, you already feel behind, like you're racing a marathon you didn't even sign up for. This is how so many of us start our days, overwhelmed, anxious, and chasing expectations that never seem to end. For a lot of people, the entire day becomes one long sprint. You rush through breakfast, check emails while brushing your teeth, sit in traffic, stressing about being late, then dive into back-to-back meetings. There's a constant pressure to do more, be more, achieve more. And somewhere between the endless notifications and the relentless grind, you lose sight of yourself. You start measuring your worth by likes, promotions, and other people's opinions instead of what really matters to you. It's exhausting, isn't it? Take John, for example. John is a skilled software developer, the kind of guy who can solve complex problems that leave others scratching their heads. On paper, he's successful, good job, solid paycheck, a resume full of impressive projects. But inside, John is a wreck. Every time his boss sends a vague Slack message like, "Can we talk later?" his stomach drops. He lies awake at night replaying every line of code he wrote, terrified of making a mistake. Even when he delivers a project flawlessly, he can't relax because he's already worrying about the next one. John spends so much time chasing approval and avoiding criticism that he never feels at peace, even in his victories. And John isn't alone. Maybe you felt this too, the fear of failure, the constant need to prove yourself, the anxiety that you're never doing enough. Maybe you've scrolled through social media and thought, why is everyone else's life so perfect while I'm struggling just to keep up? Or maybe you've had moments where you worked incredibly hard on something, only to have the outcome completely outside your control: a boss who didn't appreciate it, a client who changed their mind, a market crash that wiped out months of effort. Here's the truth. Life in the modern world can feel like a storm. There's so much noise, so many moving pieces, so many expectations pulling you in every direction. It's no wonder so many people feel anxious, burnt out, or lost. But what if I told you there's a way to step out of that storm? A way to feel calm and grounded, even when everything around you is chaotic? A way to focus your energy where it truly matters and stop wasting it on things you can't control? The ancient Stoic philosophers figured this out over 2,000 years ago. They lived in a world without smartphones or social media, but they faced the same fundamental struggles we face today: fear of failure, desire for recognition, anxiety about the future, regret about the past. Their answer was Stoicism, not just a philosophy to read about, but a practical toolkit for living. Stoicism teaches you how to master your mind, control your reactions, and find peace no matter what life throws at you. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, this sounds like some ancient, abstract philosophy that doesn't apply to my modern life, hear me out. Stoicism is not about sitting on a mountaintop meditating all day or becoming a cold, emotionless robot. It's about learning simple, powerful principles that you can use in your everyday life, whether you're navigating office, politics, dealing with relationship drama, or just trying to get through rush hour traffic without losing your cool. Imagine being able to face criticism at work without spiraling into self-doubt. Imagine going through a breakup or a career setback and feeling resilient instead of crushed. Imagine waking up in the morning with a clear mind, knowing exactly what's worth your energy and what you can simply let go. That's what Stoicism can do for you. And in today's video, we're going to explore 12 powerful Stoic secrets that will help you do your best, not in some unrealistic, perfectionist way, but in a way that feels sustainable and deeply fulfilling. These aren't just ideas to think about. These are practical, actionable steps you can start using right now to transform how you deal with challenges, goals, and everyday stress. Here's the thing. Most of us spend so much time fighting battles we can't win. We stress about what other people think of us, obsess over outcomes we can't control, and beat ourselves up over mistakes we can't change. It's like trying to control the weather. No matter how much you yell at the sky, the rain's going to fall if it wants to. Stoicism flips that script. Instead of trying to control everything, it teaches you to focus on the only things you can control: your thoughts, your actions, and your attitude. Everything else, you let go. Think about how much lighter your life would feel if you stopped carrying the weight of things you can't control. Let's say you're stuck in traffic on the way to an important meeting. You can't make the cars move faster by honking or swearing. The only thing you can control is your reaction. You can either sit there fuming, raising your blood pressure, or you can take a deep breath, listen to a podcast, and use the time to mentally prepare for your day. Same situation, completely different experience, and the difference is you. Or consider social media. Maybe you post something you worked hard on, a photo, a piece of writing, a project, and it doesn't get as many likes or comments as you hoped. You start to feel like you failed. But here's the truth. You can't control how many people click like. What you can control is the quality of your work, your consistency, and your intention behind sharing it. When you focus on what you can control, you free yourself from the endless roller coaster of external validation. These are the kinds of shifts we're going to talk about today. Over the course of this video, we'll dive into 12 Stoic principles that cover everything from handling failure to practicing gratitude, from staying humble to being patient in a world that demands instant gratification. These principles aren't about suppressing your emotions or pretending life is perfect. They're about building inner strength so you can face life with clarity, resilience, and purpose. And here's the best part. You don't have to wait weeks or months to see results. You can start applying these ideas today. The next time someone criticizes you, you'll have a new way to respond. The next time you hit a setback, you'll see it as an opportunity instead of a dead end. The next time you feel overwhelmed, you'll know how to bring your focus back to what really matters. Before we jump in, I want to ask you something. If you could learn a method to stop getting swept up in anxiety and chaos, to finally feel in control of your own mind and your own life, would you take it? If your answer is yes, then you're in the right place. Stick with me until the end of this video, because these 12 Stoic secrets might just change the way you see yourself and the world around you. And hey, if you find this helpful, please take a moment to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us reach more people who are looking for tools to live better, calmer, more meaningful lives. If you want to go the extra mile and support this work directly, you can use the super thanks feature down below. It's like buying us a cup of coffee too. Say thanks. Every bit of support helps us keep creating content like this for you. So, are you ready to step out of the storm and into a calmer, more focused way of living? Let's get started with the first Stoic secret and see how this ancient wisdom can make your modern life a whole lot better. Stoicism is one of those philosophies that, at first glance, might seem ancient and irrelevant to modern life. After all, it was born in a world without smartphones, social media, or the 24/7 chaos of modern work. But when you really look at it, Stoicism addresses the exact same struggles we face today: fear, anger, anxiety, disappointment, and the constant search for happiness in all the wrong places. It's a philosophy built on practical wisdom, not abstract theories, and it has survived for over 2,000 years because its core ideas are timeless and universal. Stoicism originated in ancient Greece around the early 3rd century BCE. It was founded by a man named Zeno of Citium, who started teaching his ideas in a public space called the Stoa Poikile, or painted porch, which is where the philosophy got its name. Zeno's teachings were later expanded by brilliant minds like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius. These names might sound distant, like figures in dusty history books, but their lives were anything but detached from real-world struggles. Epictetus, for example, was born a slave and spent his life teaching about freedom, not political freedom, but the kind that comes from mastering your own mind. Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor, probably one of the most powerful men in the world at the time. Yet he used Stoic principles to stay grounded while leading an empire through war and plague. Seneca, a famous statesman and writer, dealt with political turmoil, betrayal, and personal tragedy, all while exploring how to live with integrity and inner peace. These philosophers lived in completely different circumstances. Yet they shared one fundamental insight. True happiness doesn't come from controlling the outside world, because no matter how powerful you are, you'll never have complete control over what happens to you. The only thing you can truly control is yourself, your thoughts, your actions, and your attitude. That's it. Everything else is outside of your hands. Epictetus expressed this core idea perfectly when he said, "Some things are in our control and others are not." It sounds simple, almost obvious, but think about how much of our daily stress comes from forgetting this truth. We spend so much energy trying to control things that were never ours to control in the first place: other people's opinions, the economy, the weather, whether someone texts us back, whether our boss notices how hard we're working. We cling to outcomes as if our entire sense of self-worth depends on them. And when they don't go the way we want, we feel crushed. Stoicism offers a different way to live. It says, focus 100% of your energy on what's inside your control and learn to accept everything else as it is. That doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you stop wasting emotional energy on things you can't change and start putting all that effort into what you can change: your choices, your habits, your mindset. This simple shift can completely transform your experience of life. To really understand this, it helps to break it down into two categories: internal and external. Internal things, the ones you can control, include your judgments, your values, your decisions, and your behavior. For example, you get to decide whether you respond to criticism with anger or curiosity. You get to choose whether you spend your evening scrolling through social media or working on a skill you care about. You get to define what success means to you, instead of letting the world define it for you. These are the areas where your power is absolute. External things, the ones you can't control, are basically everything else: the weather, the stock market, the way other people behave, whether your boss is in a good mood, whether someone likes you, whether the traffic clears up in time for you to make it to your appointment. You can influence some of these things to a degree, but you can never control them completely. And the more you try, the more frustrated you'll become. Here's a modern example that many people can relate to. Imagine you're a software developer working on a big project. You've spent weeks writing code, testing it, fixing bugs. You do everything in your power to make sure the project is solid. On the day of the big launch, a major bug appears out of nowhere. You didn't create it. You couldn't have predicted it, but now it's there. What do? If you focus on the external, you'll panic. You'll start blaming yourself, your teammates, or the universe. You might get angry, anxious, or shut down completely. But if you focus on the internal, you'll take a deep breath and remind yourself, the bug itself is outside your control. What is in your control is how you respond. You can calmly investigate, collaborate with your team, and work toward a solution. The problem doesn't magically go away, but your experience of it is completely different. One response adds chaos. The other creates clarity. This applies to almost everything in life. Let's say you go on a date and the other person doesn't call you back. You can't control their feelings or their choices. The only thing you can control is how you handle the situation, whether you obsess over it and beat yourself up, or whether you move forward with dignity and self-respect. Or think about job interviews. You can control how prepared you are, how much effort you put into your resume, how clearly you communicate your skills. But you can't control whether the company ultimately hires you. Once the interview is over, stressing about their decision won't change the outcome. The key is to stop tying your emotional state to things that are fundamentally outside your power. It's like trying to steer a boat by yelling at the waves. The ocean is going to do what it does. Your job is to steer your boat, your actions, your mindset, no matter what the waves are doing. When you live this way, you free yourself from a tremendous amount of unnecessary suffering. Now, this might sound like common sense, but it's not easy to practice. Our brains are wired to crave control. We want certainty. We want to believe that if we just work hard enough, plan carefully enough or worry intensely enough, we can guarantee a certain outcome. Stoicism doesn't deny that. Effort matters, of course it does. What it teaches is that effort is only half the equation. You control the input, not the output. You can plant the seeds, water them, and tend the soil, but you can't control whether the sun shines or the rain falls. Once you really understand this, you start to find a kind of peace even in difficult situations. Let's take a scenario almost everyone has experienced: air travel. You've done everything right, packed on time, left early for the airport, breezed through security. But then, your flight gets delayed because of weather. No amount of complaining, refreshing the airline app, or glaring at the gate agent will make the plane take off any faster. In that moment, the only thing you truly control is how you respond. You can choose to stew in anger for hours, or you can accept the situation, grab a book, maybe call a friend, and make the best of the time you have. The delay is external. Your reaction is internal. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, practiced this idea every day. His personal writings, now known as meditations, are full of reminders to himself about what's in his control and what isn't. He faced betrayals, wars, and plagues, yet he constantly came back to the same principle. Focus on what you can do right now, in this moment, and let go of everything else. When you read his words, it's striking how relevant they feel, even though he lived almost 2,000 years ago. In today's world, this mindset is more important than ever. With social media, it's incredibly easy to get caught up in comparisons. You see someone's carefully curated highlight reel and think, why isn't my life like that? But you don't control what they post, how many followers they have, or how other people perceive you. The only thing you can control is what you create, how you engage, and how you measure your own worth. When you shift your focus inward, you start to realize how much energy you've been giving away to things that were never yours to begin with. This doesn't mean you stop caring about outcomes altogether. It means you approach them differently. You still work hard, you still set goals, but you measure success by your effort and your integrity, not by external results. If you write a book, success isn't defined by how many copies it sells. That's partly up to the market, which you can't control. Success is defined by whether you wrote the best book you could, whether you grew in the process, whether you stayed true to your vision. Stoicism is incredibly empowering because it gives you a clear, simple framework for where to direct your energy. When something stressful happens, you can pause and ask yourself one question. Is this within my control or not? If it is, take action. If it isn't, let it go. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice like building a muscle. But over time, you start to notice a shift. You become less reactive, less anxious, less at the mercy of other people's behavior. You feel more grounded, more focused, and more free. Think about how this could change your daily life. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, late for work. Instead of cursing every driver around you, you take a deep breath and use the time to listen to a podcast or plan your day. Or imagine you're dealing with a difficult coworker. You can't control their attitude, but you can control your boundaries, your communication, and your emotional response. These small shifts add up, creating a ripple effect that transforms how you experience the world. At its heart, Stoicism is about reclaiming your power. Not power over others, but power over yourself. In a world full of distractions, uncertainties, and constant noise, that kind of power is rare and incredibly valuable. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free up your energy for the things that truly matter: your growth, your relationships, your contributions to the world. And that's where real happiness comes from. So, when Epictetus said, "Some things are in our control and others are not," he wasn't just stating an observation. He was giving us a roadmap for living. It's a simple sentence, but it has the potential to change your entire perspective. The next time you feel stressed or overwhelmed, remember those words. Take a step back and ask yourself, what part of this is mine to manage, and what part do I need to release? That question might just be the key to a calmer, more purposeful life. When it comes to building real inner strength, Stoicism offers a step-by-step guide that is both practical and timeless. These first 6 principles are not about controlling the outside world, but about mastering yourself, your thoughts, your habits, and your reactions. When you start to live by them, you begin to experience life differently. Challenges don't go away, but your relationship to those challenges transforms. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the kind of person who can face anything with clarity and courage. The first and most fundamental principle is to focus only on what you can control. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful when you truly understand it. Most of our stress comes from obsessing over things we have zero power to change: other people's opinions, random events, the way someone behaves toward us. For example, imagine you receive harsh criticism at work. Maybe your boss says something that feels unfair or unnecessarily harsh. Your initial instinct might be to get defensive, to stew over it for days, or to replay the conversation in your head 100 times. But here's the thing: you can't control what your boss says. You can't control their mood, their choice of words, or how they see you. The only thing you control is your reaction. You can choose to take the feedback objectively, extract any useful lessons, and let the rest go. Or you can choose to spiral into anger and resentment. Either way, the external event stays the same, but your internal experience is completely different. We see this play out everywhere. Think about social media. You might post a photo or a piece of art you worked hard on, but you can't control how many people will like or comment on it. If you tie your happiness to those numbers, you'll always feel at the mercy of algorithms and strangers. But if you focus on what you can control, the quality of your work, your consistency, and the meaning behind what you create, then you reclaim your power. You stop living for external validation and start living for your own growth. It's like the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Process." This is a hard lesson in our results-driven society, where everything is measured in likes, followers, promotions, or dollars earned. But the truth is, outcomes are never entirely in your hands. You could do everything right and still not get the result you wanted because luck, timing, and other people's decisions play a huge role. Stoicism teaches us to shift our attention away from obsessing over the finish line and instead pour ourselves fully into the steps along the way. Imagine an author who spends years writing a book. They pour their heart and soul into it. Effort itself. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have goals. Goals are useful because they give direction, but Stoicism reminds us to hold those goals lightly. Work toward them with everything you've got, and then accept whatever happens. When you do this, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of success and failure. You stop being a puppet whose strings are pulled by circumstances, and start becoming someone who measures success internally by effort, integrity, and growth. Of course, none of this is possible without self-discipline. Stoics understood that mastery of the self is the foundation of freedom. In modern culture, we tend to glorify inspiration and motivation. We wait for the perfect mood to strike before we take action. I'll start working out when I feel ready, or I'll write my novel when inspiration hits. But motivation is fickle. It comes and goes. If you rely on it, you'll be inconsistent and frustrated. Self-discipline, on the other hand, is reliable. It's doing the right thing whether you feel like it or not. Think about learning a language. If you only study when you feel inspired, you'll make almost no progress. But if you commit to just 20 minutes a day, even when you're tired or busy, you'll build momentum. The same applies to fitness, writing, playing an instrument, or building a business. Small, consistent actions compound over time. Seneca, a famous Stoic, said that we should progress every day, step by step. Self-discipline is what turns those steps into real transformation. Building discipline starts small. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start by creating simple habits that align with your values. Maybe you commit to waking up 30 minutes earlier to read or meditate. Maybe you set a rule to put your phone away during meals. Each act of discipline strengthens your inner will like lifting weights for your mind. Over time, you become someone who can trust yourself, to follow through, and that trust builds unshakable confidence. Even with focus and discipline, you will fail sometimes. And that's not just okay, it's essential. Failure is not a reflection of your worth, it's feedback. It's life's way of showing you what doesn't work so you can adjust. The Stoics embraced failure because they saw it as a teacher. The only real failure is refusing to learn. Consider the story of a startup founder. They launched their first company full of excitement, but the product doesn't sell. They could see this as proof that they're incompetent and give up entirely. Or they could analyze what went wrong. Maybe they misunderstood the market. Maybe their timing was off and use that information to improve. Many of the world's most successful entrepreneurs went through multiple failed businesses before they found their breakthrough. The difference wasn't luck, it was their willingness to treat failure as data rather than as a verdict. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is the essence of Stoic resilience. When you encounter an obstacle, you don't stop. You adapt. You find a new approach. You keep moving forward, not in spite of the challenge, but because of it. To do this well, you need to stop taking setbacks personally. If a project flops, it doesn't mean you are a failure. It just means something you tried didn't work. There's a huge difference. When you separate your identity from the outcome, you give yourself the freedom to experiment and grow. You stop walking on eggshells, terrified of making a mistake, and start seeing life as a series of experiments. Some will succeed, some will fail, and both are valuable. Another crucial Stoic practice is learning to live in the present moment. Our minds are constantly time traveling. We replay past mistakes, wishing we could change them, or we project ourselves into the future, worrying about what might go wrong. But the past is gone and the future hasn't happened yet. The only moment that truly exists is right now. When you focus on the present, you stop wasting energy on things you can't change or predict. This doesn't mean you ignore the past or future entirely. You can reflect on the past to learn lessons, and you can plan for the future to guide your actions. But once you've done that, you return your attention to the task at hand. Think about driving a car. If you spend all your time staring in the rearview mirror, you'll crash. If you stare too far ahead, you'll miss what's happening right in front of you. You need to glance at both, but keep your main focus on the road right now. Life works the same way. Mindfulness is a powerful tool for cultivating presence. You don't need to sit on a cushion for hours to practice it. You can start with simple moments throughout the day. When you eat, really taste your food instead of scrolling on your phone. When someone talks to you, give them your full attention instead of planning your response. When you work, focus entirely on the task instead of multitasking. These small acts of presence create a sense of calm and clarity that ripple through your whole life. Living in the present also helps you handle anxiety. Most of our worries are about things that haven't happened yet. We create elaborate mental movies of worst-case scenarios and then react to them as if they're real. By returning to the present, you cut through that illusion. You realize that in this exact moment, you're okay. That simple realization can be profoundly liberating. The final principle for building inner strength is gratitude. At first, gratitude might sound like a nice extra, something to practice when life is going well. But the Stoics saw it as essential, especially during hard times. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already here. It doesn't erase pain or difficulty, but gives you a foundation of stability. When something bad happens, our instinct is to zero in on what we've lost. But there's almost always something left to appreciate. Maybe it's your health, your friends, the lessons you've learned, or simply the fact that you're still alive. By consciously noticing these things, you change your inner landscape. Modern research backs this up. Studies show that people who practice gratitude regularly experience lower stress, better relationships, and greater resilience. It's like a mental immune system. When life hits you with challenges, gratitude helps you recover faster. You can start small. Each night, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be huge. It could be a warm meal, a kind word from a friend, or a moment of laughter. Over time, this trains your brain to notice the good instead of automatically fixating on the bad. Gratitude also keeps you humble. It reminds you that much of what you enjoy comes from forces beyond your control, the efforts of others, the gifts of nature, sheer luck. This humility protects you from entitlement and bitterness. It helps you see life as a gift rather than a burden. When you combine these 6 practices, focusing on what you can control, letting go of results, building self-discipline, embracing failure, return to these principles. Each time you choose presence over worry, effort over outcome, gratitude over resentment, you strengthen that inner fortress. Over time, these small choices add up to profound transformation. In a world full of noise and chaos, these Stoic principles are like a compass. They don't magically solve all your problems, but they guide you toward the kind of life where you're not just surviving, but thriving. And the best part is, you don't have to wait for perfect circumstances to start. You can begin right now, exactly where you are, by taking control of the only thing that has ever truly been yours, yourself. Life is never static. It's a constant flow of events, people, and circumstances that are always shifting, often in ways we don't expect or want. One of the biggest sources of suffering comes from resisting that natural flow. When we cling to how things used to be or how we think they should be, we set ourselves up for frustration and pain. Programming language or framework, and then suddenly your company decides to shift to a completely new system. Your first reaction might be resistance. Why are we changing this? I already know the old way. This is going to be a hassle. That resistance is natural, but it's also self-defeating. The reality is, the world won't stop evolving just because you want it to. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you can start learning, adapting, and even thriving in the new environment. There's a saying in business, adapt or die. While that sounds harsh, it captures an essential truth about life. When you cling to the past, you get left behind. Companies that refused to embrace digital technology disappeared, while those that embraced change became leaders. The same is true for in this new reality. The difference wasn't about who had better circumstances. Everyone was dealing with the same external change. The difference was mindset. Those who adapted saw opportunity. Those who resisted only added extra suffering on top of an already difficult situation. Stoicism encourages us to see change not as a threat, but as a natural part of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change." He wasn't being poetic. He was being realistic. The seasons change, economies rise and fall, people grow and move on, and you yourself are constantly changing. Your body, your beliefs, your relationships, none of these remain fixed. When you recognize that impermanence is the rule, not the exception, you stop being shocked every time life shifts. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you start saying, "This is the way of things." That simple shift in perspective can save you a tremendous amount of pain. Adapting to change doesn't mean you passively accept everything without action. It means you focus your energy on what you can do rather than wasting it on wishing reality were different. Let's go back to the example of your company switching to a new technology. You could spend weeks complaining and dragging your feet, or you could take a course, read documentation, and start experimenting with the new tools. You can't control the fact that the change happened, but you can control how quickly and gracefully you adapt to it. This principle applies beyond work. Relationships change, too. Maybe a close friend moves to another city, or a romantic relationship ends. If you cling desperately to how things used to be, you'll only prolong your suffering. But if you allow yourself to grieve, accept the new reality, and stay open to forming new connections, you'll find resilience. Life is a series of chapters, and clinging to the old pages prevents you from reading what comes next. Alongside adapting to change, Stoicism also teaches us not to become enslaved by the opinions of others. In our hyper-connected world, this is incredibly challenging. Social media has created a culture where everyone's life is on display, and everyone feels entitled to comment on everyone else's choices. It's easy to start living for likes, approval, and external validation. But the Stoics warned against this trap over 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but we care more about their opinion than our own." Think about how much stress this causes. Maybe you've always dreamed of pursuing a creative career, like photography or music. It lights you up inside, but when you mention it to your family, they react with skepticism or outright disapproval. They say things like, "That's not practical," or "You'll never make a living doing that." If you let their opinions dictate your choices, you might give up your dream before you even try. You'll end up living someone else's life, full of regret and resentment. Here's the thing. You cannot control what other people think. Their judgments are based on their own experiences, fears, and values, not on some objective truth about you. If you let yourself be ruled by those judgments, you give away your freedom. It's like handing the steering wheel of your life to a random collection of backseat drivers who don't even know where you want to go. Stoicism offers a better way. It says, live according to your own values. Define what matters to you, and make decisions based on that internal compass, not on external applause. This doesn't mean you ignore all feedback. Sometimes other people's perspectives can help you grow. But there's a difference between considering input thoughtfully and letting it control you. For example, imagine you post your artwork online. Some people love it, some criticize it harshly. If you base your self-worth on the comments, you'll ride an emotional roller coaster every day. But if you create because it aligns with your values and brings you joy, you can appreciate praise without becoming addicted to it. And you can consider criticism without being crushed by it. Your center of gravity stays inside you, not in the fickle hands of others. This principle applies to everyday situations too. Maybe you're at a family gathering and someone makes a snide remark about your career or lifestyle. You can't stop them from speaking, but you can control how you respond. Instead of lashing out or silently fuming, you can choose to let it roll off your back, knowing their opinion doesn't define you. When you stop needing everyone, eventually, a single failure, mistake, or unexpected setback can shatter an inflated ego, leaving you devastated. Humility, on the other hand, provides stability. When you stay grounded, you can handle both praise and criticism without being thrown off balance. Consider a professional athlete who rises to fame quickly. They might start believing they're invincible, that their talent alone guarantees continued success. But if they stop training, stop listening to coaches, or dismiss their teammates, their performance will inevitably suffer. In contrast, athletes who remain humble, even at the top of their game, continue to grow. They recognize that there's always more to learn and that no one achieves greatness alone. Humility also improves relationships. When you approach others with an open mind instead of a need to dominate, you create space for genuine connection. Imagine working on a team where everyone is more interested in proving they're right than in solving the actual problem. It's exhausting and unproductive. Now imagine a team where people listen, admit when they don't know something, and collaborate openly. That's the power of humility. Practicing humility doesn't mean putting yourself down or denying your strengths. It means seeing yourself clearly, acknowledging your abilities without exaggerating them, and recognizing that you're part of something bigger than yourself. It's about balance. You can be confident without being arrogant, ambitious without being self-absorbed. One simple way to stay humble is to keep learning. The moment you think you know everything is the moment you stop growing. Approach life with curiosity. Ask questions. Seek out diverse perspectives. This not only makes you wiser, it also reminds you that no one has a monopoly on truth. Another practice is to regularly express gratitude for the people who support you. None of us succeed entirely on our own. Whether it's mentors, friends, family, or even strangers, countless others contribute to our lives in ways we often overlook. By acknowledging this, you stay connected to reality and avoid the illusion of total self-sufficiency. Finally, humility helps you handle failure with grace. When your identity isn't wrapped up in being perfect or admired, you can see mistakes as opportunities to learn rather than threats to your self-image. This resilience is incredibly valuable in a world where change is constant and outcomes are unpredictable. When you put these three principles together, adapting to change, freeing yourself from the opinions of others, and practicing humility, you create a powerful foundation for navigating the external world. Change will still happen, people will still have opinions, and success will still come and go. But you'll interact with all of it from a place of strength instead of fear. Picture a tree in a storm. A rigid tree that refuses to bend will snap under pressure. But a flexible tree that sways with the wind will survive. By adapting, you become like that flexible tree. Picture a ship at sea. If you let every passing wave dictate your course, you'll never reach your destination. But if you navigate by your own compass, guided by your values rather than by external approval, you'll stay on track. And picture a skilled leader who inspires others not through arrogance, but through humility and service. That's the kind of person others naturally want to follow. The external world will always be messy, unpredictable, and sometimes harsh. You can't change that. What you can change is how you engage with it. When you stop resisting change, stop chasing approval, and stop feeding your ego, you find a deeper kind of freedom. You're no longer a puppet whose strings are pulled by circumstances. You become an active participant in life, moving through the world with adaptability, integrity, and grace. This is the Stoic way of interacting with others and with reality itself. It's not about controlling the storm. It's about becoming the kind of person who can walk calmly through it, no matter how fierce the winds blow. Long-term Stoic training is not about white-knuckling your way through life or pretending you don't care about outcomes. It's about building a sustainable engine for growth that can run for decades without burning you out. Two principles make that possible: persist with flexibility and practice patience. Together, they form a simple operating system for real life. You keep showing up, you keep adjusting the method, and you give things the time they actually need. When you internalize this, you stop quitting early out of frustration, and you stop clinging to failing tactics out of pride. You become the kind of person who learns faster than circumstances can defeat you. Persistence without flexibility is stubbornness. Flexibility without persistence is drift. Stoicism asks for both. You commit to the goal, but you don't marry any single tactic. When a marketing campaign flops, you don't rerun the same ads hoping the algorithm suddenly falls in love with you. You run a post-mortem, change the headline, swap the thumbnail, test a new channel, and tighten your audience. The point is to treat every strategy as a hypothesis. You test, observe, and iterate. The Stoic part is resisting the ego's urge to equate your identity with your method. If a tactic fails, it's not a judgment on your worth. It's data. It's the world saying, try differently. This try differently mindset shows up everywhere. A software engineer ships a feature that slows database queries. The rigid response is to insist the design is correct and blame the hardware. The flexible response is to profile, add an index, refactor a hot loop, or cache results, then measure again. A small business rolls out a loyalty program and no one cares. The rigid path is to send more emails louder. The flexible one is to change. The offer asks for direct customer feedback or pilot an SMS flow for your top 5% spenders. A creator posts long-form videos that underperform. Instead of quitting, they cut the same content into short clips, test different hooks in the first 3 seconds, publish at new times, and collaborate with a niche channel. The commitment stays constant, serve the audience, but the method moves. You can build this adaptability into your routine with a tight feedback loop. Set the intent, take a shot, review reality, refine the next shot. The review is the part most people skip because it stings. Do it anyway. Write down 4 lines after each meaningful attempt. What you tried, what you expected, what actually happened, and what you'll change. This tiny discipline turns experience into insight. Without it, you stack repetition. With it, you compound learning. Over months, the curve of your performance bends simply because you stopped repeating the same week 52 times. Flexibility also means choosing the right level of change. Don't rebuild your entire system when a small tweak will do. If your social ad misses, start with the first 5 words and the visual, not your whole brand. If your workout stalls, change the rep scheme before you abandon the gym. If your code is slow, optimize the 20% of functions, creating 80% of the cost before you rewrite the service. Stoicism helps you resist dramatic overreactions. The point isn't motion, it's progress. There's another piece here: intelligent quitting. Stoicism is not masochism. Persisting does not mean clinging to a dead project because you're afraid of looking inconsistent. If the premise is broken, the market isn't there, the unit economics don't work, the work violates your values, stop. Quitting the wrong path is not failure, it's resource reallocation. The discipline is to distinguish between a method that needs iteration and a mission that needs to end. A useful filter is this. Question: if someone you respect took over your project today, would they continue it or shut it down? If the honest answer is shut it down, you have your signal. You can keep the lessons and still let the effort go. On the other side of the coin is patience. Real outcomes arrive on their own schedule. Muscles don't respect 2-week plans. Businesses don't settle into repeatable revenue by Friday. Trust in a relationship doesn't harden after 3 grand gestures. Patience is not passive waiting. It's active endurance. You do the work, you give it clean repetitions, and you hold your nerve through the slow middle. You keep your inputs tight and let the outputs arrive when they're ready. Think about how skill actually grows. A beginner guitarist doesn't sprint from clumsy chords to fluid solos in a month. They grind through awkward hand shapes, fingertip pain, and metronome practice that feels painfully slow. Then 3 months later, their fingers finally glide on a progression that used to tie them in knots. Language learning works the same way. For weeks, you feel like a fraud ordering coffee. Then one day, you catch yourself thinking in a new grammar without translating. In both cases, there was no hack. There was repetition, correction, and time. Patience is the willingness to put in clean reps long enough for compounding to show up. Patience matters in work and business because markets have inertia. You rebuild a product's onboarding and your activation rate doesn't spike by tomorrow. It creeps as you run A/B tests and burn down the edge cases. You start a newsletter and it takes a year of weekly, unskippable issues for word of mouth to kick in. You open a shop and spend months building a base of returning customers before ads are even efficient. People who lack patience jump between plays so fast they never let any of them mature. They harvest the field before anything has sprouted, then declare farming doesn't work. One way to protect patience is to measure what you control. Track inputs, weekly deep work hours, number of cold emails sent, articles published, sales demos delivered, code merged, workouts completed, quality reps practiced. These are inside your power and stabilize your psychology. If the scoreboard is only revenue, likes, or PRs, your mood will whip with forces you don't command. When you see a flat month but a consistent stack of inputs, you keep your faith. Another protection is a realistic timeline. If you know that meaningful SEO traffic typically lags production by 3 to 6 months, you won't panic in week 4. If you accept that a new hire needs 90 days to hit stride, you won't judge them by day 9. Patience should be paired with periodic review, or it morphs into complacency. Set cadences, a weekly check for tactics, a monthly check for strategy, a quarterly check for mission. In the weekly, you ask, what micro adjustments increase our odds? In the monthly, are our bets still the right ones? In the quarterly, does this direction still fit our values and reality? Stoicism keeps ego and fear from hijacking these reviews. You tell the truth about what's working, but you don't catastrophize what isn't. You keep standing where your feet are, and you keep moving them where data suggests. All of this plays beautifully in modern work. In software, persist but be flexible looks like shipping small slices fast, gathering telemetry, and iterating behind feature flags. It looks like instrumenting your code so you learn from production instead of guessing. It looks like choosing boring, reliable technology unless there's a clear reason to adopt the shiny tool, and then committing to mastering it rather than dabbling. It looks like writing post-incident reviews that focus on process, not blame, and change the checklist so the same issue can't bite you twice. Patience in engineering is spending the extra day on documentation, tests, and observability so your future velocity increases. It's resisting the urge to just push it when a quiet voice says, "We haven't handled rollback." In entrepreneurship, the duo shows up as disciplined experimentation. You hold your thesis loosely and your customer tightly. If Facebook's CPMs kill your margin, you trial search ads, partnerships, affiliates, or creator collaborations. If DDC is bleeding, you pilot wholesale with a small retailer. If your funnel leaks at the demo stage, you overhaul the narrative and narrow ICP rather than shouting into the void. Patience looks like staying the course on one positioning for long enough that the market can actually recognize you, instead of changing your tagline every Tuesday. It's understanding seasonality, cash cycles, and the lag between action and result, so you don't panic hire or panic fire out of fear. For creators, persistence with flexibility is the difference between flailing and growth. You keep publishing on a cadence. You test different hooks, intros, and formats. You examine retention graphs and figure out where viewers drop. You try live streams, shorts, carousels, long essays, whatever aligns with your message and your energy. You don't confuse the algorithm's mood with your mission. Patience is giving your voice time to get good. Your first 20 videos are practice, not proof. Your first 50 newsletter issues are you learning your reader. You accept that credibility grows slowly and then suddenly. In personal relationships, this framework can save you from avoidable damage. Persist with flexibility means you don't sprint away from discomfort, but you do change the way you approach it. If date nights keep turning into logistics meetings, you stop pretending and set aside phones for 2 hours, try a new activity, or ask better questions than "How was your day?" If a friendship fades because life is busy, you create a ritual, a monthly breakfast, a standing call, and you protect it. If a conflict recurs, you adjust the channel. Write a letter to calm the emotion before you talk. Patience in relationships is accepting that trust is a bank account, not a switch. You can't deposit with one grand gesture and expect a lifetime of interest. You deposit daily in small acts of reliability, attention, and kindness. You also accept that people evolve. The friend who was perfect for your 20s may not be the one you lean on in your 40s. And that's not betrayal. It's life unfolding. Socially, resisting the pull of instant approval is part of this long training. You will not please everyone. You will be misunderstood. You will hold a boundary, and someone will call you selfish. The Stoic response is not to harden into coldness. It's to keep your compass set on your values, communicate clearly, and let time prove your intentions. Patience here is refusing to litigate your character in the court of public opinion, and instead letting your consistent behavior be your argument. Mental health and burnout are where these principles become non-negotiable. Burnout is not only too much work, it's too little recovery and too much pretending you control what you don't. Persistence with flexibility means you persist in caring for yourself, even when the calendar screams otherwise, and you flex your workload, sleep, and training around reality. It means you say no earlier, you renegotiate deadlines when the constraints change, and you design your week like an athlete. Hard days and easy days, not 7 sprints in a row. It means you move your body daily, even if it's a walk, and you protect anchors like morning sunlight, meals without screens, and a bedtime that makes you a better human tomorrow. Patience in mental health is refusing quick fixes that mortgage the future. You choose habits that compound: therapy or journaling to turn murky feelings into language, mindfulness to shorten the gap between trigger and reaction, gratitude practice to bias your attention toward what's working. You accept that relief may come slowly. The fog lifts a little, then a little more. You trust that a stable routine is not boring. It's a launch pad. You measure progress in fewer spirals, faster recoveries, and kinder self-talk, not in the absence of struggle. At the daily level, a Stoic schedule operationalizes both principles. Pick a window for deep work when you're least distractible and guard fiercely. Plan your day the night before so you don't burn willpower deciding at noon. Batch shallow tasks. Decide ahead of time what good enough looks like for each task to avoid perfectionism that masquerades as quality. After you execute, do a brisk review. What helped, what hindered, what one tweak earns you the next 1%. Give your experiments enough runway. Don't change tools every week. Don't change workouts every session. Don't change strategies without at least a handful of clear data points. Language matters, too. Notice how you talk to yourself when things lag. This is taking too long, creates resentment and rush. This is the phase where compounding is invisible, creates steadiness. I should be further along, triggers shame and frantic pivots. I'm building a body of work, re-anchors you in process. Stoicism trains your inner narrator to be factual and forward-looking, not catastrophic. When you catch all or nothing thoughts, replace them with next action. Questions: what's the smallest step that moves this forward today? You can also pre-commit to patience with concrete horizons. Tell yourself, I will publish weekly for 1 year before judging the channel. I will give this sales motion 12 weeks and 1 major iteration before I pivot. I will train 3 times a week for 6 months before I evaluate the program. Pre-commitments protect you from the insecurity of the moment. They let data accumulate. They make your life less about mood and more about momentum. Remember that persistence and patience do not exempt you from rest. In fact, rest is part of persistence. Athletes know adaptation happens between sessions. Creators have seasons of harvest and seasons of soil building. Engineers rotate on call to protect focus. Parents survive by protecting date night and solo time. If your system does not include recovery, your system is a countdown to collapse. Build Sabbath like pauses into your week. Take deload weeks from the gym and from aggressive goals. Plan off-grid time on purpose so the world cannot steal it by accident. You will still face stretches where nothing seems to work. The Stoic advantage is not magic results, it's robustness. You won't swing as hard with the market's mood. You won't abandon a good plan because Twitter is loud today. You won't torch relationships because you were impatient. For reassurance, you will be the same person on Monday as you were on Friday, steady, adjusting, moving. If you want a pocket checklist to practice this long training, it could be as small as this. Hold the goal, change the tactic, review the week, keep what works, measure inputs, allow outcomes, protect recovery, earn intensity. Speak to yourself like a coach, not a critic. Stay long enough to see compounding. Leave fast when values are violated. That's it. You don't need 1,000 hacks. You need a few durable habits repeated under changing weather. Over years, these 2 Stoic pillars, flexible persistence and patient endurance, change your identity. You go from someone who hopes to someone who builds. From someone who gets thrown by delays to someone who uses delays. From someone who bristles at feedback to someone who minds it. You'll look up one day and realize the victories you care about arrived, not because you forced them, but because you created the conditions where they had no choice. You laid bricks daily. You adjusted the mix when the wall cracked. You kept laying bricks when no one was watching. And then the structure stood. In a noisy world, this is a quiet philosophy. Keep going. Keep adjusting. Give it time. It's not flashy, but it's undefeated. When you step back and look at all 12 Stoic secrets together, you can see how they form a complete system for living a balanced, resilient, and meaningful life. Each principle works on its own, but when you combine them, they reinforce each other like gears in a well-designed machine. The first 6 focus on building inner strength. The next 3 teach you how to engage with the external world wisely, and the final 3 help you sustain the journey over the long term. If you want a simple way to remember them, think of them as a progression. Control yourself, interact wisely, and endure with grace. The first secret is to focus only on what you can control. Your thoughts, your actions, and your attitude are yours alone. Everything else, other people's opinions, the weather, random events, are externals you can influence at best, but never fully command. This is the foundation of Stoicism. When you stop wasting energy on things you can't control, you free yourself to excel at the things you can. The second secret is to let go of attachment to outcomes and focus on the process. In a world obsessed with metrics, likes, promotions, and paychecks, this is radical advice. You can work hard, plan carefully, and still have the results slip through your fingers because of factors outside your control. Measure success by your effort and integrity, not by external applause. The third secret is self-discipline. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline carries you forward. Build small, consistent habits that align with your values. Show up for yourself every day, even when you don't feel like it. This is how real transformation happens. The fourth secret is to embrace failure as feedback. Every mistake contains information. Failure is not a verdict on your worth, but a signal to adjust your approach. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The fifth secret is to live fully in the present. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only moment you can act in is now. Bring your attention to the task at hand, whether it's writing code, having a conversation, or simply breathing. The sixth secret is gratitude. Even in hardship, there are things to appreciate: your health, your relationships, the lessons you've learned. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's here, strengthening your resilience. The seventh secret is to adapt to change. Life is a river, not a rock. Resisting its flow only creates suffering. Whether it's a new technology at work, a shift in your relationship, or a global event like a pandemic, stay flexible. Adaptation is not weakness, it's strength. The eighth secret is to free yourself from the tyranny of others' opinions. Lie by your own values. Listen to feedback, but don't let external judgment dictate your choices. Your worth is internal, not up for a vote. The ninth secret is humility. Success can easily inflate the ego, leading to arrogance and stagnation. Humility keeps you learning, collaborating, and growing. It also protects you when failure comes, as it inevitably will. The 10th secret is persistence with flexibility. Don't quit at the first sign of difficulty, but also don't stubbornly repeat failing strategies. Hold the goal steady while adjusting the method. Try differently becomes your mantra. The 11th secret is patience. Real growth takes time. Muscles, businesses, relationships, none of these mature overnight. Trust the process, measure what you control, and give compounding a chance to work its magic. The 12th and final secret is to integrate these principles into a lifelong practice. Stoicism is not a quick fix or a weekend workshop. It's a daily discipline that deepens with experience. When you return to these 12 principles again and again, they become part of who you are. To see how these ideas come alive in real life, let me share a story. A few years ago, there was a young entrepreneur named Daniel who dreamed of starting his own tech company. He quit his stable job to pursue a vision he deeply believed in, a platform to help small businesses manage their finances more easily. At first, everything went wrong. His first product launch flopped. Users didn't understand the interface. A competitor released a similar tool with more features. His investors started to lose confidence. Daniel felt like a failure. He worked 18-hour days, driven by panic, trying to force success. The more he pushed, the more mistakes he made. He lost 2 key team members to burnout. His relationships suffered. His health began to break down. One night, after a particularly brutal day, he stumbled across a podcast about Stoicism. Something about the simplicity of the ideas struck him. He bought a copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and began reading a few pages each morning. At first, it felt strange. How could words, written by a Roman emperor 2,000 years ago, apply to modern startup life? But slowly, Daniel began to see connections. He realized he couldn't control what investors thought or what competitors did. He could only control his actions and mindset. He stopped obsessing over daily metrics and started focusing on building the best product he could. When the next setback hit a major bug that caused user data issues, Daniel didn't spiral into anger. He gathered his team, calmly reviewed the problem, and worked with them to find a solution. He encouraged open dialogue instead of blame. Morale improved. He also learned to let go of outcomes. Instead of tying his self-worth to revenue numbers, he celebrated small wins. A cleaner code base, a smoother onboarding flow, a grateful email from a single happy customer. These internal victories gave him energy to keep going even when external results were slow. Most importantly, Daniel started practicing patience. He realized that sustainable success takes years, not months. He set realistic timelines and protected his team from burnout by encouraging regular rest and reflection. Slowly but surely, the company stabilized. 2 years later, they weren't the biggest player in the market, but they had a loyal user base and a healthy culture. Daniel credited Stoicism with saving not only his business, but his sanity. Stories like Daniel's are everywhere once you start looking. Athletes who come back from devastating injuries, creators who spend years in obscurity before breaking through, parents who raise resilient kids despite difficult circumstances, they're all practicing Stoic principles, whether they know it or not. The lesson here is simple. Stoicism doesn't make you emotionless. It doesn't turn you into a detached robot who feels nothing. Instead, it makes you strong enough to feel deeply without being destroyed by those feelings. It gives you tools to navigate life's chaos with clarity and purpose. You still experience joy, love, and sorrow, but you're not enslaved by them. You become, as the Stoics would say, a citizen of the world, able to engage fully, without losing yourself. When you apply these 12 secrets consistently, you stop being tossed around by external events. You stop reacting blindly to every piece of bad news or praise. You develop what modern psychologists call an internal locus of control, the sense that your life is guided from within rather than dictated from without. This doesn't mean you control everything that happens to you. It means you control how you respond, and in that response lies your freedom. Imagine living in a world full of noise, comparison, and constant change, but moving through it with a calm center. Imagine having relationships built on authenticity rather than performance, work that aligns with your values, and a mind that stays steady in both triumph and tragedy. That's what these Stoic secrets offer. As we wrap up, take a moment to reflect on which of the 12 principles speaks to you the most right now. Maybe you need to focus on self-discipline, or perhaps you're struggling with letting go of others' opinions. Start there. Stoicism is not about perfection, it's about progress. Even a small shift in mindset can create a ripple effect in your life. If you found value in this journey through Stoic wisdom, I have one final request. Please take a moment to like this video. It may seem like a small thing, but it helps us reach more people who are searching for tools to live with more clarity and resilience. Share it with a friend who's going through a tough time or who loves philosophy. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future deep dives into ideas that can change your life. If you want to go above and beyond in supporting this work, consider using the Super Thanks feature below. It's like buying us a cup of coffee or a book to say thanks for the effort that goes into creating these videos. Every bit of support helps us keep bringing you practical, timeless wisdom in a world that desperately needs it. The world will always be unpredictable. Challenges will come. Change will happen. But with these 12 Stoic secrets as your guide, you don't have to face that chaos unprepared. You can build an inner fortress that no storm can shake. You can live not just reactively, but intentionally. And in doing so, You'll not only improve your own life, you'll inspire others to do the same. That's how real change spreads, one resilient, grounded person at a time.